I never thought my life would take such a sharp turn. My name is Mark, and if you're reading this, it's likely because you found yourself in a similar pit of despair that I fell into. It all started when I lost my leg in a motorcycle accident. The world I knew came crashing down, and I had to adapt, not just physically but emotionally. My wife, Jessica, stood by me during the darkest days, or at least that's what I thought. We had been married for over 6 years, and aside from the occasional fight about the dishes or whose turn it was to walk the dog, I thought we had a solid relationship. Jessica had always been supportive, often bragging about how strong she was for sticking with me. But as I went through the grueling process of adapting to my new prosthetic limb, I noticed something was off. Small details began to add up: her late nights at the gym, her new interest in yoga, and the way she seemed distracted during our conversations. It was subtle at first, but I could feel a shift in the air. The first big red flag hit me one night. When I checked my texts and saw a message from her phone, it was a reply to a friend and she signed off with "Love you." My stomach dropped. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but it felt wrong. I casually asked about it and she laughed it off, saying it was just a casual sign-off, something friends do. I tried to shake off the nagging feeling, but it was as if I was living in a fog. Fast forward a few weeks. I had just come back from a physical therapy session. I was working hard to regain my strength, but the emotional weight of the situation was suffocating. When I returned home, I was met with the smell of something delicious cooking. Jessica was in the kitchen, a little too chipper for someone who had just spent the day at work. I felt an urge to ask about her day, but a nagging voice held me back. Instead, I decided to clean up a bit in the garage. As I was moving boxes, I stumbled upon an envelope. It wasn't just any envelope. It was one of those fancy invitation ones. My curiosity piqued. I opened it without thinking. It was an invite to an art exhibit, one I knew Jessica had no interest in. The back of the card had a little note scribbled in her familiar handwriting. "Can't wait to see you, Dr. Kelly. Love, Jess." Panic set in. Dr. Kelly was my prosthetics specialist, a man who had been helping me, treating me with kindness and respect while I was struggling with this new reality. It didn't take a genius to put two and two together. My heart raced as I felt the betrayal wash over me. I had trusted them both, my wife and the man who was supposed to help me heal. That night we sat on opposite ends of the couch, the distance between us palpable. I could feel the tension rising. When I finally confronted her, I was a bundle of nerves, my voice shaky but determined. "Jess, I found something," I said, trying to keep my tone even. "Who's Dr. Kelly to you?" She looked at me, eyes wide, a mixture of shock and something else, fear perhaps. "Mark, it's not what you think," she blurted out, attempting to dismiss my accusation. Her voice was tinged with that defensive edge I had heard before. "What do you mean it's not what I think? You wrote him a love note. What else am I supposed to think?" I was on my feet, pacing now, my frustration bubbling over like a boiling pot. She rolled her eyes, a gesture that made my blood boil. "You're being ridiculous. It's just a friendly note. You're so paranoid." "Paranoid? I'm not paranoid. I'm just noticing what's going on right in front of me," I shouted, my voice rising. The conversation spiraled out of control, accusations flying back and forth until she finally admitted, albeit reluctantly, that they had shared some intimate moments during my therapy sessions. "Intimate moments?" I mocked. "You mean sex, right? You cheated on me while I was learning to walk again." I was shaking now, trying to keep my emotions in check, but it felt like my whole world was collapsing around me. Her excuses flowed like a bad script. "I was lonely, Mark. You were always at those appointments, and Dr. Kelly was just so easy to talk to." Every word she spoke felt like a dagger to my heart. I had put so much trust in her, and now I was left feeling like a fool. The realization of her betrayal stung more than the loss of my leg. As the conversation wound down, I felt an overwhelming mix of anger, sadness, and disbelief. It was hard to reconcile the woman I loved with the person standing before me, a stranger who had betrayed my trust in the most painful way imaginable. The emotional turmoil was intense. I had given everything to this relationship, and now I felt hollow. The shock transformed into anger, and I started plotting my next move. What could I do? How could I make her understand the pain she had caused? It was clear that I needed to do something, but the question was, what? The thought of revenge started to weave itself into my mind, and it felt strangely liberating. I was done being the victim. I would find a way to reclaim my power, even if it meant climbing mountains without the support of my prosthetics. Adaptation transcended their limitations, and I'd prove that to both of us. What lay ahead was uncertain, but that night marked the beginning of my journey. Little did I know it was just the start of a long and winding road. After the confrontation, I felt utterly shattered. The person I had shared my life with, who had promised to be there for better or worse, had betrayed me in the most intimate way possible. I spent the night staring at the ceiling, my mind racing with a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions. I felt angry, sad, and most of all betrayed. As dawn broke, I found myself unable to get out of bed. Jessica had left for work, and the silence in the house was deafening. I lay there, grappling with the weight of what I had discovered. The pain was sharp, but beneath it stirred a flicker of resolve. I refused to let this define me. The days that followed were a blur. I started to gather evidence, text messages, email exchanges, anything that would solidify the truth of Jessica's affair. Each piece I found felt like a confirmation of my worst fears. I had trusted her with my vulnerabilities, and she had thrown them back in my face. I couldn't help but feel the anger simmering beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment to erupt. At work, I was a ghost of my former self. My colleagues noticed my distraction, but I brushed off their concern with half-hearted excuses. I couldn't focus on anything other than the betrayal. The only thing that provided a sliver of solace was my physical therapy sessions. At least there, I could channel my anger into something productive. One evening, I decided to pay a visit to Dr. Kelly's clinic. I told myself I was going for a routine checkup, but deep down, I wanted to confront him about his role in this mess. I had every intention of letting him know how he had crossed a line that should have remained unapproachable. As I parked outside the clinic, a wave of nausea washed over me. The last time I had been here, it had been a place of healing. Now it felt like a den of betrayal. I walked in, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. As I approached the front desk, I could see Dr. Kelly through a glass partition, chatting with a nurse, his easy smile making me clench my fists in anger. "Hi, Mark. Good to see you. How's the leg feeling?" he said, standing up. To greet me, I forced a smile, but inside I was boiling. "Actually, I'm here to talk about something else," I replied, my tone colder than I intended. His brow furrowed, and I could see the confusion etched on his face. "Oh, I'm okay. Why don't we talk in my office?" As we settled into his office, I took a deep breath, searching for the right words. "Look, Dr. Kelly, I think we need to have a serious conversation about boundaries in your clinic." He raised an eyebrow, clearly caught off guard. "Boundaries? What do you mean?" I leaned forward, my pulse racing. "You know damn well what I mean. You and Jessica, you've crossed a line that should never have been crossed." His expression shifted from confusion to defensiveness. "Mark, that's not fair. Jessica and I—" "Stop right there," I interrupted, my voice escalating. "I don't want to hear your excuses. You're supposed to be a doctor, a professional, but instead you took advantage of someone vulnerable." He opened his mouth to retort, but I pressed on, fueled by a mix of rage and pain. "I came to you for help, and you used that trust against me. You knew what I was going through, and you still went ahead with this affair." "I didn't mean for it to happen," he stammered, but his words only fueled my fury. "Didn't mean for it to happen," I shot back. "That's exactly the excuse a coward uses. You're a grown man and you made a choice. You might have thought you were just being friendly, but you were playing with fire." I stood up, the confrontation feeling more cathartic than I imagined. "I want you to know that I won't let this go. I will tell everyone what happened here if that's what it takes. You don't get to walk away without consequences." With that, I stormed out of the office, adrenaline coursing through my veins. I felt alive, empowered in a way I hadn't since the accident. I had confronted my demons, and although the outcome wasn't what I had hoped for, it was a start. When I got home, I found Jessica sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone. The sight of her made my heart race, but this time it was different, charged with both anger and determination. I would no longer be the victim in this story. If she wanted to play games, I would play too. "Hey," she said, looking up as I walked in. "How was your appointment?" "Let's talk," I said tersely. She glanced at me, clearly sensing the tension in the air. Okay, what's wrong?" "Everything's wrong, Jessica. You think we can just sweep this under the rug, that everything will go back to normal?" Her expression shifted from curiosity to annoyance. "What are you talking about?" "Don't play dumb with me. I know about you and Dr. Kelly," I said, my voice steady. "I confronted him today." Her face paled. "You did what?" "I told him how you cheated on me. I told him that he took advantage of my situation, and I'm not done with either of you yet." She opened her mouth, but no words came out. I could see the panic in her eyes. "Mark, you don't understand," she stammered, desperately searching for an explanation. "It was a mistake. A mistake." I echoed, bitterness dripping from my words. "You mean a series of choices? You chose to betray me when I needed you the most. You chose to have sex with someone else. I was lonely. You weren't there for me." She yelled, her voice rising. "Lonely? I was in physical therapy learning how to walk again, Jessica. You think I wanted to leave you behind? I thought we were in this together." The argument spiraled from there, both of us shouting over each other until we were just two people exhausted from the weight of our emotions. When the dust settled, I felt a strange sense of clarity. I had always considered myself the strong one in the relationship, the one who kept it together. But now, I had to find strength in a different way. In that moment, I realized that this wasn't just about revenge or anger. It was about reclaiming my life. I needed to make a decision, to keep battling for a relationship that felt broken or to move on and embrace a new chapter. The choice loomed over me like a mountain I had to climb, one that would require every ounce of strength I could muster. And I was ready to face it, no matter how steep the climb. After that explosive confrontation, I was left with an uneasy silence hanging in the air. Jessica had retreated to the bedroom, and the house felt more like a battlefield than a home. I paced the living room, my mind racing with competing thoughts. I was furious, but I was also heartbroken. How had we gotten to this point? I knew I had to make a choice, but the options were overwhelming. Could we repair the damage done, or was it time to cut my losses and move on? My head spun with memories of our life together, the laughter, the romance, the plans we had made for the future. Yet with each recollection, the sting of betrayal overshadowed those moments. I felt like a stranger in my own life. That night, sleep eluded me. I tossed and turned, replaying the events over and over in my mind. It was a cruel cycle of anger and sadness. I finally decided to take a walk, hoping the fresh air would clear my head. As I stepped outside, a chill ran through me, but I welcomed it. It felt grounding. I wandered through the neighborhood, my thoughts racing. I passed the park where Jessica and I had spent countless afternoons, laughing and enjoying each other's company. Now, it felt tainted. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was holding onto a ghost of what once was. As I walked, I stumbled upon a small mountain trail I had often hiked before the accident. The urge to climb it surged through me. I hadn't attempted anything like that since losing my leg. Maybe it was the adrenaline or the need to reclaim my power, but I felt an overwhelming need to conquer it. The next morning, I gathered my gear. My prosthetic limb had been a source of frustration, a constant reminder of everything I had lost. But it was time to adapt. I strapped it on, feeling determined to tackle the trail. My heart raced with a mixture of excitement and dread. Would I be able to complete the climb? As I began the ascent, the rocky terrain tested my limits. Each step was a challenge, but with every ounce of effort, I felt a sense of liberation. I was no longer just the husband betrayed. I was a man fighting to reclaim his life. The crisp mountain air filled my lungs, invigorating me and pushing me forward. Halfway up the trail, I paused to catch my breath and took in the view. The landscape stretched for miles, a breathtaking panorama that reminded me of the beauty still present in the world. I reflected on my life, on Jessica, the betrayal, and my next steps. I realized that I had spent too long feeling like a victim. I was more than that. After a few more grueling minutes, I reached the summit. The sense of accomplishment was overwhelming. I stood at the top, taking in the vastness of the world below. The adrenaline coursed through my veins, and for the first time in weeks I felt a flicker of hope. I wasn't just overcoming my physical limitations. I was reclaiming my life, my identity, and my strength. As I descended the mountain, I thought about my confrontation with Jessica and Dr. Kelly. I needed a plan. I wouldn't let them dictate my future. I would take control of my narrative. It was time to show Jessica that I had a life beyond her and that I wouldn't be defined by her actions. When I returned home, I found Jessica. In the kitchen, her eyes red and puffy from crying. The sight struck a chord in me. Part of me still cared for her, but I also felt a growing resolve within myself. I wasn't going to collapse under the weight of this betrayal. "Mark," she said, her voice trembling, "I'm really sorry about everything. I've been thinking. I know I messed up. I want to make things right." I took a deep breath, searching for the right words. "Jess, I don't know if you can." Her face fell. "What do you mean?" "I love you and I want to fix this. We can go to counseling, we can do whatever it takes." "Love isn't enough to fix this," I replied, my voice firm but calm. "You broke trust, and trust is the foundation of any relationship. Right now, I don't know if I can ever see you the same way again." She reached out for me, but I stepped back, needing space. "You have to understand that my world has changed. I've changed. I can't keep living in a cycle of hurt and betrayal. I need to figure out what I want." Jessica nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I'll do anything, Mark. Just give me a chance to prove it to you." I hesitated, feeling pulled in two directions. Part of me wanted to give her that chance, clinging to the hope that we could rebuild what we had. But another part of me screamed that I deserved better than lies and deceit. I couldn't ignore the mountain I had just climbed. It was a testament to my resilience. "I don't know if I can do this, Jess," I finally admitted. "I need time to think, to heal. I can't promise you anything right now." "Okay," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I understand. Just know that I'm here waiting for you." With those words hanging in the air, I walked away, feeling the weight of uncertainty pressing down on me. I was standing at a crossroads. The decision to stay or leave loomed over me, and I knew I had to go deep within myself to figure out the path I wanted to take. As I lay in bed that night, I felt a flicker of hope amidst the confusion. I had climbed the mountain. I had proven to myself that I was capable of more than I thought. I might have been betrayed, but I was not broken. Tomorrow would be the beginning of a new chapter, not just in my relationship with Jessica, but in my journey of self-discovery. I needed to embrace that journey, come what may. The days turned into weeks, and I found myself navigating a complex emotional landscape. Jessica and I were living in the same house, but the connection we once had felt like a distant memory. We moved around each other like strangers, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. I spent my days focusing on physical therapy and rediscovering my love for the outdoors, while Jessica was left grappling with guilt and the consequences of her actions. As I continued to challenge myself, I began to establish a routine. Every morning, I would wake up early and hit the trails, pushing myself further each day. Each climb became a metaphor for my emotional journey, a way to reclaim my strength and independence. I realized that while I could not control everything happening in my life, I could control how I chose to respond to it. One day, after a particularly grueling hike, I returned home feeling invigorated. The fresh air and physical exertion had cleared away some of the heavy fog that had settled over me. I was ready to confront the lingering questions in my mind. Whether I wanted to rebuild my marriage or move on, I felt it was time to have a serious conversation with Jessica. "Jess, we need to talk," I said as I walked into the living room where she was curled up on the couch. She looked up, her expression a mix of anxiety and hope. "Okay, what's on your mind?" I took a deep breath, choosing my words carefully. "I've spent a lot of time thinking about us, about what happened and where we go from here." Her eyes widened and I could see her heart racing. "I'm ready to do whatever it takes to make this right, Mark. I love you. I know you say that, but love alone doesn't fix what's broken. You hurt me deeply, and trust is not something that can be rebuilt overnight." I paused, searching for the right way to articulate my feelings. "I feel like I've been living in a shadow, trying to figure out how to feel safe in my own home again." "I understand," she said softly, her voice trembling. "I know I messed up, and I will do anything to earn your trust back. I just need a chance." The sincerity in her voice tugged at my heart, but I was also aware of the pain I was still feeling. I don't want to rush into anything right now. I need to focus on myself and my recovery. Maybe some time apart will help both of us sort through our feelings. Jessica's face fell and I could see the fear in her eyes. Time apart? Are you saying you want to separate? I'm not sure. I just know that I need to find out who I am outside of this relationship. Right now, it feels like the weight of our past is suffocating me. Tears welled in her eyes. I understand, Mark. I just wish things were different. I'll be here when you're ready to talk. That night, I sat on the couch, staring blankly at the wall while Jessica retreated to the bedroom. Felt a mix of guilt and relief wash over me. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was making a mistake by pulling away, but deep down, I knew that staying would only perpetuate the cycle of hurt and resentment. A part of me still held on to the hope that we could find our way back to each other, but I had to be true to myself first. I began to reach out to friends and family for support, sharing my feelings with those I trusted. I felt a sense of camaraderie with others who had faced betrayal in their relationships. They shared their stories, offered advice, and reminded me of the importance of self-care during difficult times. I spent more time outdoors, finding solace in nature and rediscovering my passions outside of my relationship with Jessica. One evening, while hiking alone, I stumbled upon a serene overlook. I sat on a large rock, taking in the view of the valley below. As the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, I felt a deep sense of peace wash over me. It was in these moments of solitude that I began to realize the depth of my strength. I didn't need to rely on anyone else to define my worth. I was capable of creating my happiness, and I had the power to carve my path forward. I thought about the choices Jessica had made and the trust that had been shattered. I also thought about my own choices moving forward. Over the next few weeks, I kept working on my physical fitness, and my confidence grew with each hike. But with that confidence came an increasing awareness of my emotional state. I was still grappling with feelings of anger, sadness, and betrayal. The journey toward healing was a twofold process, one that required me to confront both my physical and emotional scars. One Saturday, I decided to visit the art exhibit that Jessica had been so keen on. I wanted to see if the paintings could evoke something in me, a different perspective on what I was feeling. As I wandered through the gallery, I felt a sense of freedom in losing myself among the colors and textures. Each piece spoke to me in its own way, and I felt an unexpected surge of inspiration. While I stood admiring a particularly vibrant painting, I overheard a conversation between two women discussing their own experiences with betrayal. They spoke about the power of forgiveness and the importance of self-love. Their words resonated deeply with me, and I found myself reflecting on my own capacity to heal. Could I forgive Jessica? Could I ever see her the same way again? As I left the gallery, I felt an urge to reach out to her. Maybe it was time to have that deeper conversation about where we stood. I didn't want to rush into anything, but I also didn't want to let her wait indefinitely. I picked up my phone, hesitated for a moment, and then sent her a text. "Can we talk tonight? I think I have some clarity I'd like to share." I didn't expect an immediate response, but within minutes my phone chimed. "Yes, of course. I'll be home by 6. As I prepared for our conversation, I felt a mix of nervousness and anticipation. I still had questions swirling in my mind, but I was determined to approach this talk with honesty and openness. I needed to express my feelings and hear hers as well. That evening, as we sat across from each other at the dining table, I took a deep breath. It was time to lay everything on the table, my fears, my hopes, and the possibilities of what lay ahead. As Jessica sat across the table, her eyes flickered with anticipation, and I could sense the weight of our unspoken words hanging heavy in the air. The moment felt charged with potential, like standing at the edge of a cliff, ready to leap into the unknown. I had spent weeks preparing for this conversation, and now that it was here, I felt a mix of nerves and determination. "Thanks for coming home early," I began, my voice steady but soft. "I've been doing a lot of thinking." "Me too," she replied, her eyes searching mine for any sign of hope. "I've realized how much I've hurt you, and I want to do whatever it takes to make things right." I took a deep breath, pushing aside the anger and hurt that had clouded my mind for so long. I want to be clear that it's going to take more than just words to fix this. I need to hear you take full responsibility for what you did, and I need to understand why it happened. Jessica nodded, her expression serious. I know I messed up. I was selfish and didn't think about how my actions would hurt you. It's no excuse, but I felt so lost after your accident. I thought I was being supportive, but instead, I ended up seeking comfort from someone who should have been helping you. Her confession hung in the air, and I felt a twinge of empathy. I remembered how vulnerable we both had been during those dark days. I get that you were struggling too, Jess, but that doesn't excuse what you did. You had a choice, and you chose to betray me instead of reaching out for help. I know, she said, tears welling up in her eyes. I was wrong, and I'm so sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. I want to fix this, but I understand if you don't want to work on our marriage. The vulnerability in her voice struck a chord within me. I had spent weeks contemplating what I truly wanted. My heart ached at the thought of losing her, yet the pain of her betrayal was still fresh. I'm not ready to make any promises, Jess. I need to prioritize my healing and figure out who I am outside of this relationship. I can't just pretend everything is fine. I understand, she replied softly, her eyes filled with sorrow. I'll give you the space you need. Just know that I'm committed to doing the work whatever it takes. A silence fell between us as I processed her words. I wanted to believe that she could change, but the path ahead felt daunting. What does that work look like? I asked, genuinely curious. I think we should both look into counseling, she suggested. We need to understand our individual issues and what led us here. I want to learn how to support you better, and I want you to feel safe and loved again. We can't just gloss over everything that happened. The idea of counseling made sense. It could provide us with tools to navigate our feelings and help us address the deep-rooted issues in our relationship. That sounds like a good start, I admitted, surprised by how open I was feeling. But I still need some time apart to fully process everything. Of course, she replied, her voice steady. I'll respect your space, but I want you to know that I'm here when you're ready. I nodded, feeling a sense of relief wash over me. Thank you for understanding. I don't want to rush into anything, but I do want to work toward rebuilding our relationship if that's what we both truly want. As we talked late into the night, I started to feel a glimmer of hope. While things would never be the same, perhaps there was a chance for us to rebuild brick by brick. It wouldn't be easy, but we could try to create a new foundation based on honesty and accountability. The next day, I went for a hike, feeling lighter than I had in weeks. The sunlight filtered through the trees, and the fresh mountain air filled my lungs. I realized that while there were still many unknowns ahead, I was no longer paralyzed by fear or doubt. I had taken a stand for myself, and now I was ready to engage in the healing process. As the days turned into weeks, Jessica and I began to navigate a new dynamic. We made appointments for couples counseling and started to communicate more openly about our feelings. I found myself sharing my fears and frustrations, and in return, she opened up about her vulnerabilities and the guilt she carried. There were hard days, no doubt, moments when the pain of betrayal resurfaced, but we learned to address those feelings as they came up. We talked about what commitment meant to us, and we explored how we could support each other moving forward. In counseling, we discussed the importance of trust, how it needed to be earned, not given freely. Jessica began to understand that her actions had consequences, and she was willing to do the hard work to regain my trust. It was a slow process, but with each session, I felt a little more hopeful. During this time, I continued to embrace my love for hiking. I pushed myself to explore new trails, and I began to climb mountains I had once thought impossible. Each ascent became a metaphor for my journey, a testament to my resilience and determination to reclaim my life. I learned to celebrate small victories, whether it was reaching a new summit or simply feeling stronger in my body. I was adapting and evolving both physically and emotionally. My connection to nature became my refuge, a reminder of the beauty of life and the power of perseverance. One weekend, I tackled one of the most challenging trails in the area. As I climbed, I reflected on how far I had come, not just in my physical recovery but in my emotional healing as well. I had faced the darkness of betrayal and had chosen to confront it head-on. Standing at the summit, I felt a surge of accomplishment. I looked out at the breathtaking view, a landscape of possibility stretching before me. I had learned that adaptation transcended limitations. I was more than just a man who had lost a limb. I was a survivor, a warrior navigating the complexities of life. As I made my way back down the mountain, I felt an overwhelming sense of clarity. I still had a long journey ahead of me, but I was ready to face it, whatever that might entail. I didn't know what the future held for Jessica and me, but I was committed to the process of healing. Returning home that evening, I found Jessica waiting for me, her expression mix of hope and nervousness. "How was your hike?" she asked. "Challenging but worth it," I replied, a smile creeping onto my face. "I think I'm finally beginning to understand what it means to adapt." As we sat together on the couch, I couldn't help but feel that maybe, just maybe, there was a path forward for us. The journey would be long and fraught with difficulties, but together we might find our way back to each other. I looked her in the eye, feeling a sense of determination. "I'm willing to work on this, Jess. I want to see where we can go from here." She smiled, a glimmer of hope shining in her eyes. "I promise to do everything I can to earn your trust back, Mark. I love you." And for the first time in a long while, I believed her. As the days turned into weeks, Jessica and I continued to navigate the rocky terrain of our relationship. We attended counseling together, dove deep into our communication, and began to peel back the layers of our individual traumas. Each session was a mix of breakthroughs and setbacks. The journey was arduous, but it was one we were committed to undertaking together. I found solace in my newfound strength, both physically and emotionally. Hiking had transformed from a painful reminder of what I had lost to a source of empowerment. Each mountain I tackled was a metaphor for my growth, a testament to my ability to adapt and overcome. I embraced the mountains not just as a challenge, but as a symbol of resilience. One evening, after a particularly productive counseling session, I decided to take Jessica to one of my favorite hiking spots. It was a trail that led to a stunning overlook where the sunsets painted the sky in vibrant hues. As we walked side by side, I could feel the tension gradually lifting between us. "Mark," she said, breaking the comfortable silence, "I've been thinking a lot about our journey together. I know it's not going to be easy, but I believe in us. I want to do everything I can to make this work." I looked at her, appreciating the sincerity in her voice. "I want that too, Jess, but we both know this will take time. We have to be patient with each other." "I'm willing to be patient," she replied, her eyes sparkling with determination. "I want to be the partner you deserve." As we reached the overlook, I felt a rush of nostalgia wash over me. This spot had been a favorite of ours long before the accident. Standing there now, I could see the beauty of the landscape stretching before us, a reminder that life was still full of possibilities. "Remember when we used to come here and talk about our dreams?" I asked, leaning against a rock. "Of course," she replied, a smile breaking through her solemn expression. "Those were good times. I miss that." "Me too," I said softly. "But I think we can find our way back there. We're just starting a new chapter. It might look different, but it can still be beautiful." We stood together, watching as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the valley. In that moment, I felt a sense of hope, a flicker of light in the darkness that had enveloped us for so long. Weeks turned into months, and our relationship slowly transformed. We became more intentional about spending quality time together, rekindling the connection we once had. We explored new trails, not just physically but emotionally as well. Each hike brought us closer as we shared our fears, our dreams, and our aspirations for the future. In counseling, we learned to set healthy boundaries and communicate effectively. I started to see Jessica not just as the woman who had betrayed me, but as a person who was genuinely trying to grow and change. I admired her willingness to confront her mistakes and work toward earning back my trust. One day, while we were out on a hike, Jessica suggested we take a different route. "I know a trail that leads to a hidden waterfall. It's a bit of a challenge, but I think we can handle it together." I grinned at her adventurous spirit. Let's do it. I'm up for a challenge. The trail was steep and rocky, pushing us both to our limits, but with each step we supported each other, reminding one another to take it slow and breathe. I felt a sense of camaraderie growing between us, a bond forged in trust and shared experiences. When we finally reached the waterfall, the sight took my breath away. The water cascaded down the rocks, sparkling in the sunlight. We stood there, marveling at nature's beauty, and I felt overwhelmed with gratitude. This was a moment I wanted to cherish, a reminder of how far we had come. Mark, Jessica said, her voice soft, thank you for being patient with me. I know I've made mistakes, but I'm committed to being a better partner. I want to grow with you. I turned to her, feeling the weight of her words. Thank you for being honest and for being willing to change. It means the world to me. As we stood side by side, I felt a sense of peace settle over me. I realized that healing takes time, but it was possible. We were moving forward, not as the same people we had once been, but as individuals who had faced adversity and emerged stronger. As we made our way back down the trail, I could feel the bonds of trust slowly reweaving between us. The journey ahead may not be easy, but I felt equipped to navigate it. We had survived the darkest of storms, and now it was time to embrace the light. I had learned that adaptation transcended limitations, not just physically but emotionally too. Our lives were intertwined in ways that would forever change us, but together we could continue to climb mountains both literally and figuratively. In the end, I had found strength in vulnerability, and through it all I had reclaimed my identity. I was no longer just a man who had lost a leg or a husband betrayed. I was a survivor, a warrior, and a partner committed to building a new life. As we reached the car, I looked at Jessica and smiled. Ready for the next adventure? Always, she replied, her eyes shining with determination. And with that, we drove off into the sunset, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead.